right, guys, welcome to today's Limitless Agency team call. Just went through a ton of exciting announcements. We just had our best month ever in terms of annuity and IUL production, as well as we had the most producers qualify ever in the month of March for the 20 and up producer bonus. So super excited. We have cruise qualification ending here in a few weeks. We have a summer sales conference in Vegas, June 3rd. And just announced, Larry, we just talked about the F&G Scotland trip that we are super fired up for. So we appreciate you for getting on. We're super excited to learn all things F&G, go through, adult IUL. I know you guys have that really cool children's IUL program. And then at the end, we can kind of open up for Q&A if that's okay with you.
That's perfect. Yeah, absolutely. You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, great. Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Hayden. Yeah, it is just an exciting time to be doing IULs and, for F&G in our partnership with Family First. If you don't know me, you might have met me when I was with AIG for a little bit, but I actually got hired at F&G specifically for Family First Life, for the people that I already knew there, and then for, just basically explaining what kind of massive growth you guys could have within F&G, because as of 2 years ago, we were doing hardly anything with you guys. I think 2 years ago, I think the total was about 2 million a year. And then you quadrupled that in 1 year without even trying. And now this year you're actually trying, and you're already almost to last year's production levels with us. So it's an amazing thing that you guys are doing. I foresee you guys being like a $50 million IMO with us in the next couple of years. It's going to happen, and we want to be a part of that. So the things like the Scotland trip and that kind of stuff are going to be just the tip of the iceberg, because of, we had, as a company, had to realize the importance of Family First Life. And now I think we understand that. And that has been my push to say, hey, look, these guys, we need to pay way more attention than we are to these guys. So really excited about our future together. We're kind of late to the game. I know there's a lot of people writing with NLG and with Moo and all those other carriers, and I have no problem with that. If you're in the IUL business, we're happy to get some or all of your business. But the fact that you're writing IULs at such a great rate is just tremendous to me. And so because it's less of a learning curve, and then once you see why write F&G, there's basically two main reasons to write us over anyone else. Number one is our product performs better, and number two is we pay you more. So if you remember those two things, there's really not much else. Everything's pretty much apples to apples as far as living benefits are concerned, as far as processing times and all that wonderful stuff that we have to put up with. We are working on our processing to get instant issue and things like that too.
I was going to say number 3, Larry. You guys are quicker than some of the other 3-letter companies you named that do IULs. You guys are quicker issuing. So we like that. We like getting, as Erica said, we like getting paid and getting our clients approved. So
that's right. Erica's great. Erica Walker is one of my favorites too. So, and it's great getting to know some of the individual producers like the Beckers and those guys and Depot and all these other guys that are just crushing it. And Depot moved his entire family to Arizona just to be around the hotbed of activity. That's pretty impressive, right? So it's awesome to see that kind of a commitment on your part. So yeah, and we're not always going to be the fastest. I'd say on an average though, we're just as good or better than just about everybody. So let me see if I'm going to share my screen. I actually used your account, Hayden, so I can put a couple of the examples of the illustrations in your account. So if anyone asks how they're done, you'll have them permanently.
Okay.
So let me share this one here. And I'm going to go over a juvenile scenario first, and then we'll get into like a max accumulation. The reason I love to talk about juvenile IULs is because if you've never sold an IUL before, if you're kind of hesitant as to, you don't understand the product enough, number one, FFL's boot camp is amazing for that. So there's so much information on there to learn. We also have great internal videos on our website, on our microsite for agents. But the other thing is that juveniles, there's a lot less questions when it comes to health. And then we also have instant approval on our juvenile cases. And I'll show you the scenario that I'm talking about here. So I'm going to start basically from scratch again and just start a whole new case and duplicate it. So when you're in your SalesLink account, if you're licensed with us and contracted with us, you'll get to this page, and it'll be under Sales Tools Illustrations, and you'll come to this page. You have annuity illustrations and life, and obviously we're going to explore life illustrations. And then you'll get to this screen here under, if you notice, our illustration software is through iPipeline, so it should be pretty kind of inherent if you've worked with iPipeline before. So you see a lot of the buttons are the same and a lot of the sub buttons are the same. So
Yep.
I'm going to just build this, and just remember, you don't have to do this complicated of a scenario, but we kind of have a story to tell with this whole, the way that we build this. And we're going to put at age 0. So this is a brand new baby. We're going to use female because they look better on paper, as far as like they perform better. And then we'll go to Arizona and hit find available products, and then reach down and go to Index Universal Life.
Hey, Larry, how old do they have to be, like a baby? Is it 1 week old to write a policy?
15 days.
15. Okay. 15.
Yeah, 15 days. There may be a certain, like if they're really premature, then there would be obviously some waiting period, but a normal birth is 15 days. Yeah.
Awesome.
We're going to always select the path setter. I would say probably 95% of the products that you guys sell are going to be path setter. Our Everlast is more of a, older person that just wants a death benefit and wants that death benefit to last. This Everlast product we're going to tweak it, and it's going to be a little bit better, but that's coming up. But path setter is our cash accumulation IUL, high performing, and still very low cost. So we're going to use that one. When you get to this screen right here, it's just going to say, because it's a minor, you're going to have to put the owner name in. So you would put whatever the mom or dad's name is in there. Okay. And for this solve, this is a little different than what we normally do. Normally we'll solve for max accumulation and income, but because of this scenario, we're going to solve for income stream. And everything in here, you don't really have to touch anything in here except for the income type. I'll explain why I'm doing this. So we're going to do a start age of 23 and a 1-year payout. We're going to solve for a second income stream, start age 65, and we're going to do 20 years. And that's all we change in this thing right here. So what this is explaining is when we want money out, showing us how much money we can take out of the policy's cash value and still have a healthy policy. And then showing a one-time payment. What that's going to turn into is like a college reimbursement. And then we're also going to show a stream of income for retirement. And then we go down here to the initial face amount. We're going to enter a $200,000. The reason that I'm using $200,000 is because that is the maximum F&G will allow without having to worry about the parent's coverage. Okay, so the one thing when you do juveniles is that you have to worry about, do the parents have coverage, and they're supposed to have twice as much as the child. But if it's at 200,000 or below, we don't ask. So it makes life a lot easier for you guys, and you can process things super fast. We're going to do option B to A. So if you're ever doing a cash accumulation IUL, you're almost always going to want to be an increasing death benefit because it lowers the initial death benefit and then allows it to accept more cash for less cost. And then we're going to change from B to A at age 65. Ours are really complicated. So A is age, Y is year. So if you want to say at year 20 or year 10, stop paying at 10, you can just use the letter Y. Otherwise, you do A for age, and I almost always do age because I know when I want to turn on things, at what age I want to turn on things like that. We're going to do a monthly premium, and the premium type is going to be specified varied. And the reason we're doing varied is because I'm going to change a couple of different things in here. So we have monthly in here, and in order to enter a thing, you just click on the first year, right? So we just click on that, and we'll go back and put $200 a month. Okay, so not a tremendous investment, $200 a month, $2,400 a year. For most people, that's pretty well within reach. And then what we're going to do for these parents, because I'm in this exact scenario right now. My daughter just chose a college, and I got to figure out how to pay for it all starting in August of next year or this year. So what we're going to do is we're going to take at age 19, and we're going to stop payments for 4 years. So we're just going to zero that out. And then we're going to go back in at age, let's say they graduate at age 22, year 23 of the policy, and we're going to turn them back on again. and then just leave them until age 65. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4 years of no payments. There we go. And I think that is pay premiums to age 65. Make sure we change that. But that's it. Right down here is our interest crediting options. If you've ever seen our different strategies that we have, we're always going to point you towards the S&P 100% participation rate. This has got a 12% cap on it, and it illustrates at 7.08%. So fantastic product. Just so you know, all of our products have a 0.25% persistency bonus that starts from day one. And then when you get into the Barclays Trailblazer right here, we also have a 1% bonus that starts in year 2. So if we do 50% in Barclays, 50% in the S&P, it's really up to you, how you want to adjust these. But I think for illustration purposes, it's just easier not to touch it, because if you touch it, guess what you have to do? You got to explain it all to your client, and they're going to ask a million questions, and you may not know the answers. So these are index strategies. Boom, we're just going to leave them how the company suggests we leave them. It's kind of like when they make a sandwich at Subway, like, what do you want on it? Like, whatever you guys normally put on it, just put that on it, and I'm good. So
Keep it simple.
So this is perfect. Yeah, it just keeps it real simple, real easy. So I don't touch any of that when I'm showing one of these. And then what I normally will do here is I'll hit this button, this calc results button. This is like a quick grab of the actual tabular detail, and it's better. It's a little quicker than actually producing the entire illustration. Plus, it can show you some different things in a quicker manner. So we have your policy summary and we have your premium summary here. So you'll see that in year 1, they have $2,400, and the death benefit. This is at the end of the year. So by the end of the year, it has already increased by to 201,949. And then I just make sure that everything looks good through here. Everything looks good, and then the income turns on. So I just want to make sure that everything's good. The other thing that you can look at and you can tell the people right away is when you hit this premium summary, this will just go over some of the most important numbers, right? Your annualized premium is $2,400. And then the next most important number is this one right here. Your guideline single premium is $14,200. So that means at any point in time, if they want to add more money, or if the child wants to add more money later in life, that's how much they can add every single year and not met the policy. So you can see there's a tremendous gap for them to be able to put more money in this thing, which is fantastic. Okay. All right. So let's go through this story that we're going to tell about someone's brand new baby, and maybe the parent, maybe the grandpa wants to fund this for them. Just remember that, like, if you're running final expense leads, talk about their grandkids, please. Say, what are you doing for your grandkids? You just got one of those, $10,000 whole lives. You think that's really going to help them in the future? Probably not too much. Let me show you this IUL that we have. You could put in $50, $100, $200 a month, and let me show you what it can do for your grandchild. And you're going to, man, I tell you what, when they see the results of this thing, they're going to freak out. Yep. So this is and I always like to save it and view it as a PDF, just because it's a little bit easier to to maneuver around it. And then you can save it right to your desktop. So if you have to, when you do finally do the application, then you can just upload this right to the app, and then it gets signed automatically within the application. We are working on a way to get that automatically done, but that's coming up soon. Wow. So Juvenile, I spelled Juvenile wrong. Oh, great. That's great. So you don't have to be smart to do this job, just so you know. So here's a story we tell. You start your child off, and you pay for 18 years, $200 a month. It's money that you'd be spending on like a 501b, or some kind of an educational fund, or some other kind of fund that you would set aside for them. That's what you would set aside for them anyway. But if we put it into an IUL, we're going to go over how many different positives that it can create, because it has just so many different options that those education plans, like the 503Bs, I think they're called, that they don't have. Because number one, you can use this money for anything. It's not just for education, it's for anything. And then number two, it's basically guaranteeing your child, or this child, will have insurable a life insurance policy for the rest of their life, and never have to worry if any kind of health thing comes along or anything like that. So we're going to have you pay for 18 years. We're going to give you those 4 years off, and we're going to go right down to this tabular detail and take a look at this. Okay, so we paid in for 18 years. We take 4 years off. And then our assumption is that hopefully with a college degree, your child's going to get out. We're going to go over this policy with our child and say, listen, we've been doing this for you for this long. This is what you need to do. You need to take over these payments from us. You need to, this is basically your savings and your retirement plan. Outside of whatever job you get, you can still fund your 401k fine, but you keep putting $200 a month or more into this plan, and this is what it will turn into for you in your future. So unburdening the parents and putting the burden back on the child. We're going to be able to take out at year 24 a $99,000 lump sum of money if we choose to, right? If they have college loans to pay back, if they get scholarships and don't have any debt, then we don't need to take this money out. But that money can be used for basically anything. They could put a down payment on a house. They could buy a car. They could, start their own business with their college education. Just so many options that are available to them with this amount of money. Even and leaving it, the policy still is very healthy. It still has enough cash value to accept all this. And then obviously they got the scenario where they keep paying on this like it's just an automatic thing until they retire at age 65. And at age 65, they have $130,000 of tax-free income for 20 years to age 85.
Wow.
So basically, you're putting a grand total of $146,000 into this policy, and you're receiving out of it $2.7 million. And this is basically the minimum that you're putting in, right? And you're never increasing the payments. You're never doing anything else. And you saw how much extra room they could put into this. Now, this exact same scenario, if we remove this $99,000 payment here, this number turns into $220,000 a year. So obviously keeping money in it, it's going to accumulate faster, and you get all those years of compound interest just piling up. So you show this scenario to anybody that has a child or is about to have a child. It is really hard to ignore and hard to say no to this, right? You can do it at $100. The numbers don't look as good, but it still looks amazing when you compare what's going in to what's coming out. Okay. So that's the juvenile. Do we have any questions on that? I'd love to, if anyone had any questions on that
Yeah,
one.
if you guys have any questions, put them in the Q&A.
Oh, yeah.
Larry, what kind of living benefits come with that?
All of them. So chronic, critical, terminal illness, a chronic pays 25% a year for up to 4 years, up to $1 million of death benefit. And the great thing is, like, at year, for this child, if you're looking at future insurability, basically, by the time, let's say they have a family at a normal age or whatever, they have, by the time they're 30 years, let's say 30 years old, they already have like a $300,000 death benefit, even after taking out $100,000 of cash, right? So if they don't take that out, it's even bigger. But by the time they're 50, their death benefit's back up to $1 million. And the great thing about the living benefits is it goes to your accumulated death benefits, not your initial death benefit. So let's say the average chronic illness happens somewhere around age 77 to 83, somewhere in that range. By the time they're age 80, they have, another, I'm sorry, because it's reducing with all these premiums coming out, but like at age 70, it's 1.2 million. So you can use that for living benefits, or here's the thing with living benefits. If you have so much cash value in your account, it's probably better to just take out cash value and take a loan against your death benefit, as opposed to accelerating a portion of your death benefit as a living benefit, right? So it's better for adults because they're never going to have a cash value that's going to catch up to the total face. But on a child scenario like this, living benefits are almost a moot point because their cash value is so high that, like, if you did a chronic acceleration, you might get a 70% payout. So you're taking a 30% hit on every dollar of death benefit you had, as opposed to just taking out what you need from the cash value as a loan. Right?
That's a great point.
So yeah. So on a child scenario, that living benefits aren't as important. It's nice that they're there. They're just not as important as on an adult scenario, like someone in their 40s or 50s that are just starting to build something with it. because then you have a much bigger gap between cash value and the face amount. Okay, so
Awesome.
we'll do one more
So someone asked a
as
question,
an.
Larry. So just to
Oh,
clarify, the owner is the parent, and then is the beneficiary, can they also be the parent or?
yeah, the
Okay,
beneficiary would be the parent, and then yeah, absolutely. And then at age 18 or whenever they decide to switch the ownership to the child, then they can do that, and then they would still probably be beneficiary until the child had some family of their own, or someone else that needs the money or is dependent on their income, right? So that becomes like a real beneficiary to them.
okay.
Absolutely.
That is an awesome
Okay,
policy.
man, it's crazy. We started our daughters a year ago, so it's getting there. But she was already 16 when we started it, and
Yeah.
then we have a grandbaby that we're going to do one on right now too. So it's amazing. Yeah. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this, and we'll do a new case. Start anew. Okay, does anyone have a scenario that they want to see, like a 40-year-old male, or anyone that that maybe has some decent cash that they want to put into a policy?
Larry, let's do like a, yeah, 30 or 40, whatever you want to do, just a 30 or 40-year-old male. And
Okay,
let's say that they're gonna put in let's do $500 a month.
perfect. Okay, it would be the same pass setter, obviously for that. So this one, okay. So our underwriting guidelines, we have preferred, we have non-tobacco. I leave it at non-tobacco, which is standard. Our standard is kind of like other companies preferred, because we don't have a preferred plus or preferred elite or whatever the other super preferred or anything like that. So that's what our preferred is like a super preferred. So I would say about 50 to 60% of the people fall into standard. There's a small percentage that will get preferred if they're super healthy, no issues. They're always going to get the best that they qualify for. The underwriter, the big misconception, underwriters don't look at what you submit, right? They just look at the facts. They're not going to say if you submitted at preferred or if you submitted at standard or table D, if the client is still a preferred, they're going to get preferred, right? So it's just more of an easy way to, this is like, I tell you, this is normal, right? I don't even use the word standard. I said, this is normal. Most people get this. So we'll start there. If you're really healthy, you might get better. If you're not so healthy, you might get a little worse. Okay. We're going to solve for max accumulation and income. And then all of our solve inputs will pop in right here. We're going to specify our premiums. Just click on that box and we'll put in $500 a month. Check. And then we don't have to do anything else there. And we'll pay to age 65. Okay, we'll just do one stream of income starting at 65 for 20 years. They always want to do 25 years of income, and that takes you to 90. Like most people don't live that long, so let's just do this. All right, so this box right here is extremely important. It says minimum non-MEC death benefit. I would only click this box if you're competing head to head with another carrier. You want to see exactly the smallest face and the best accumulation, because I'll show you the difference between this and not choosing this and then choosing this box. So I leave it unclicked for now. And then the only other thing we have to do is we have to change our option right here from B to A. We don't have to do the initial face amount because it's going to solve for that. And we don't have to put in any premium because we already put it in up here. So this solve is much easier than the juvenile that I just showed you.
Sure. And Larry,
So
is that going from an increasing death benefit to then later just a level death benefit?
yeah, we'll level it at age 65 when they're done putting premiums in. And then obviously if they overfund it faster and they put more premiums in, then they can change that to level of whatever year they want to. And that's it. That's all you have to do on that. So those are the steps to take on that. And then again, I hit the calc results button just to see, make sure everything looks good before I pull up the full illustration. I make a lot of mistakes when I do these because I do them so fast. And I was like, okay, so initial death benefit is like around 240,000. They're putting all this money in, and then when they retire, they're looking at 46,000 a year for to age 85. So basically, you're taking 30 years of input, right? Inputting for 30, taking out and multiplying that by 7 almost, and taking out for another 20. So decent cash accumulation and decent death benefit growth. By the time they're 65, they have almost 700,000 in coverage. And then the premium summary, again, this is the biggest difference. You got 6,000 going in. When you have that guideline level, this is the other one you look at. They can add in another $4,700 a year if they want to without mecking the policy. Okay. So just remember these numbers: 46,992. Okay. And then the initial death benefit 240. So we're going to go back in real quick. Of course, real quick. And hit details here. And I'm going to go down and check that box and just show you the difference. So this is basically limiting them to only being able to put in the $500 a month, never putting in any more without mecking it. But the performance will go up slightly. Oh, it didn't even do it. It didn't even go up. All right, so 46,774. So because so yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So there's kind of no point, because again, they're young, healthy, whatever. They started at 35. It's even though you reduce the death benefit to 135, it's still increased fast enough where the max out is actually about the same as it was without it. So always leave that box unchecked. That's the biggest lesson to learn there. So I'm going to uncheck that one more time. Okay. All right. So let's do this one more time. Calculate results. I'm going to explain to you, like when I used to sell IULs, I did it all over the phone, never face to face with anyone. Didn't have Zoom back in my day. That was it was all 2016 and 17. So back in those days, they barely had teleconferencing or anything. So it was there. It was just really clunky. But 46,992. So this is a great thing to show. Yeah, you're doing so good with your money. Every single year you put something in, it's multiplying like crazy. My biggest push was like, this is not your only source of retirement, correct? Right? This is your tax-free retirement. So what would you rather use first? Would you rather use your tax-free retirement first, or the ones where your taxes are going to keep getting higher on, like your 401k or real estate or things like that? And everyone's going to say, oh, I'd rather use those first. So let's just assume you're a really bad planner and your 401k is only going to last you for 5 years, right? We want that to go first, though, because our tax rates are going to probably continue to increase or that kind of scenario. So let's do that first. Let's use that 401k money first. Let's let our IUL bake for 5 more years. And then let's see what happens if we start our, disbursements at a little later age, let's say 70. Okay, so I come down here and all I do is I change this to 70. Don't change the number of years, still 20 years. Obviously, they're going to go to 90 now. But let's just see what that does. Remember, we're at 46,000 something. Let's hit calc results on this now. And you see, I've never even printed out a whole viewed regular illustration yet. I'm just going over the most basic numbers with this person. So we're going to calculate the results, and we're going to sneak down here and we're going to say, oh my God, we waited 5 years and we increased it by $20,000 a year, about $18,000 a year over 20 years. So that's $360,000 of more income coming out of this policy just by waiting for 5 more years, by using our 401k, not touching this if we don't have to. Okay. So it doesn't really matter which scenario they buy into, because again, it's up to them in the future to decide when they want to take money out. It's not really our job to tell them which one's better for them. All we're showing them is like, look, if you let it go longer, this is what you get, right? And it's not like you have to take the 64,000 every single year if you don't need it. You can skip it and it'll just keep growing and growing and growing. So that's what I always like to it kind of adds a little more punch to the retirement number, because some people just look at that and are like, oh, that doesn't seem like a lot. I'm like, well, for what you put in, it's still a tremendous return. But then you show them that extra 5 years, and that really, it's 10 times their money almost what they put in.
Yeah.
So
Can you go
that's
to
a
can you go to premium
scenario.
summary? Can you go to premium
Oh
summary
yeah,
and just kind of
absolutely.
explain the 7 pay and the guideline and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. Absolutely. So the top numbers are what you're putting in. Target is what you guys get paid on. Modal premium is their monthly. Minimum premium. This is what. Okay, so this is very confusing, right? This is annual, not monthly. So this policy could survive on basically $100 a month, a little bit more than $100 a month. Okay, so the minimum premium is an annual basis. The guideline single, we don't really pay much attention to that because the guideline single will mech a policy. It's just the most that the initial face amount can accept. The guideline single will change every single year because the face amount's different. So that will change. And then the guideline level is the most that they can put in one calendar year. And then the 7 pay is a more aggressive. You still have to solve for 7 pay. It usually ends up being about 5 years of what they can put in without meching the policy. So that's about 14,000 if they wanted to do that. But if they start putting $500 a month in, then they won't be able to do the 7 pay. Basically, that's just from the start. Okay, 7 pay is from day one. If you want to solve for 7 pay, you can do that, and it usually will let you put in about 5 years, and then you're really, really limited to what else you can put in the remainder of the policy, right? Okay. So, but I mean, hey, it's great if someone wants to pay for 5 years and be done. Hey, that's fantastic, right?
Cool. And Larry, when someone wants to take cash out, what's the usual turnaround time to get the money?
From the time that we get the request, it's usually less than 30 days. It's probably about 10 days.
Okay.
It's just basically they have to send the request in. When you're talking about someone you're selling the policy to today, by the time they take money out, maybe 10, 20 years from now, everything's gonna be so automated. You got to think we're on the precipice right now, like of having an app and things like that, where they basically just will make a request and do a transfer into their bank account.
Nice.
Especially the bank account that's coming out of, just transfer right back into that with a loan, and it's going to be so automated. It's going to be pretty incredible what's going to happen in the industry. Okay, let me see what this one looks like. So with this one here, we put a total of 180,000 in as a 35-year-old, and we're taking about 1.2 million out, almost 1.3 million out. So tremendous return, and then just the fact that you have just all these options with living benefits and the face, and it's the other thing that people don't understand, why would you do this with life insurance? Couldn't I do it with like an index strategy? Sure, you could. You could do that and just invest directly in an index, but normally there's like a minimum of $100,000 to get into these kind of indexes. And then, so it's pretty cost prohibitive for the average person. Plus then it's not self-completing. When you die, it doesn't, like, that's it. You don't have any big upside to your family when you die. So life insurance is the only thing that really does that. And you guys asked that question, what do you have that acts like life insurance, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you still ask that in your presentation? I love that question. What do you have that acts like life insurance? But that's it. Those are the two scenarios. If you guys have questions, or what I really love to do sometimes is just like take someone else's, like an NLG or a MOO or anyone. If you have a scenario where it looks like they may be outperforming us, I'd love to take a look at it just to see. Sometimes it's how we design the illustration. I hate losing, especially to those guys, and it almost never happens. So I'm not saying we bait them 100% of the time, but it's only about 99. But there's that 1% that could slip through. But I'd love to take a look at that specific illustration. Some of the higher dollar, like real huge piles, like 20 million face policies, we might not be as good on, but that's not our market. Our market's middle market.
Yep.
We want those people that can do $500 a month, $1,000 a month. That's who we're targeting.
Yeah. Someone Someone asked Larry, can we add a term insurance rider, maybe for example, the first 15 to 20 years?
We have term riders on here. They don't terminate ever. So that's the problem with them, is that what they end up doing is you can try it. There is a place down here for a term right down here. So you can do years to illustrate. Let's see, where is it? I know so much about it because I don't even, I never even talk about term riders. I steer people clear of it. So there's a spouse term rider, and then there's also, where is the other term rider on here? Accidental. Oh, primary insured term life rider. Okay, so we can choose. Let's say we put like 250,000 on there, and then maintain level term coverage through year 15. You can do that. That's easy. Let me see what it does to the performance. This is what always makes me wonder on this thing, because it's basically just taking money from your cash value or from your inputs and just putting it towards paying for a term policy.
Sure.
It still might be nice to have it all, wrapped into the same thing. It didn't really hurt this one too bad because he's still young. So his term coverage is real cheap, right? So now his initial death benefit, goes up pretty high as far as that goes. The additional rider puts that up there. So he'll have 250 on top of that. So that's not a terrible one. Typically with term policies, I always say have one separate, have a separate term, and we don't sell them, but I'm not opposed to going to another company for a term product, just a separate term.
So someone
in this scenario, in this scenario, it looks fine. Like it almost looks like you're paying next to nothing for it.
Okay. So someone asked an example. So what it seems like is if they're really young, the cost of insurance isn't too crazy. But if we're doing it for someone who's 30, 40, 50, you're kind of just wasting your dollars that would normally go into cash accumulation.
Right. Yeah. And typically, with, let's say, a 35-year-old just starting a family making, $80,000 to $100,000 a year, you're going to want over $1 million in coverage. You want 10 times income easily, even after tax. Still, you want, with a young family, I would say 10 to 15 years. So making up the difference in our policy compared to having a separate, let's say, $1 million term, and then just using this as your retirement account kind of deal, to me makes a little more sense. So, and you don't have to do a 30-year term. You can do a 15, 20-year term or whatever, and just and then cut it out when you're done with it. When this death benefit gets to a point where you're like, oh shoot, I got enough in my IUL as far as death benefit that I don't really even need the additional coverage for my term, so I can cancel that. And it's a little more portable that way. Whereas this one, the cost is kind of baked into the whole thing, as opposed to just, even though it says it's only level for 15 years, it still is, the cost is kind of spread out through the whole thing.
Yeah, makes sense. Larry, someone else asked, for the children policy, if the parent dies before the child is 18, are we able to transfer ownership, and does the policy continue if the premiums keep on getting paid?
That's a great question. And so my recommendation for any child's policy is to have a trust as the owner, because a trust it also puts on responsibility to someone else if the parents die. So that's always a good thing. And parents should always have a trust if they have a child anyway, not just a living will, but an actual trust account, and have an executor of that trust as either a lawyer or someone in their family. But that to me is the best scenario. If it happens, unfortunately, then yeah, we can work with a change of ownership. So it's always, to me, it's best not to keep these a secret that you have these for your kids, so you tell your family that you have them to make sure that they understand that it's there. And, F&G would help with that transition. But to me, having a trust is the ultimate. So even if the grandparents want to be the owners, or not the owners, but the payers of the policy, have the trust own it, have the grandparents just pay the policy. And then if something happens to the grandparents, then the parents could take on that payment, or, it could just just go start living on the cash value that it has too, or the child can just start paying on it. It depends on the age and everything. So yeah, with juvenile policies, talk about trust. If you don't know about them, just tell them to, hey, get a lawyer, start a trust, and change the ownership. Because you don't have to do it right up front. Obviously, it's if you want to try to do that up front, then it's going to stall everything as far as the sale goes. So just sell it like normal, like the parents are the owners, that kind of thing, and then just strongly suggest to them, hey, put this in a trust with the rest of your with the rest of your assets, your home, that kind of stuff. You want to have that in a trust for your kids. If you were to pass away and they're minors, then they're gonna have everything's gonna get stuck in probate if you don't have that. So if they're chances are you're talking to someone that's interested in IUL. They're planners, right? They have a plan for their kids. They want to make sure that everything is set. If anything does happen to them, they have other life insurance. So they're going to be really receptive. If they don't already have a trust, they're definitely going to want to get one and set that up because you can use it for everything. So,
yep. And that would be a great time, guys, to use Integrity's new legacy safeguard software that can kind of start that legacy planning, get that conversation, get that trust going. So, does anyone else?
I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, super cool.
That's
Does
amazing.
anyone else have any other questions for Larry? All right, I don't think so. If you do, shoot me a text and I can get the answer. But hey, Larry, we appreciate you for hopping on. We're super excited about the Scotland trip. I know I think the Beckers have already booked their hotels and bought clothes and sunglasses. They're already ready to go because
We're definitely going.
so. But super excited, and we're gonna start sending a lot. We've already sent a lot of business this year, but we're gonna start sending a lot more. So super excited to work with you.
Appreciate it.